Hey everybody, welcome to One Nation of Sports Locker Magazine Extra. I'm your host, Kirk DeMars. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on Monday, March 16th, 2026. And yes, it is my younger sister's birthday today, so I just want to say happy birthday to you, my dear sister Vicky. I hope you had a great day. All right, well tonight I wanted to try something a little bit different. I wanted to actually go through and make some, let's call them educated picks on who I think is going to win the men's bracket in the March Madness basketball tournament. So we'll go through that here in a little bit, but I want to hear from you. I want to hear who you think will get to the Final Four and who you're picking for the national championship. Now, I'm going to try to do the women's bracket a little bit later this week if possible, and just depending on how things go, I have a funeral that I need to go and attend tomorrow. So I'm going to be kind of caught away a little bit. But just wanted to get your thoughts on who you think is going to make the Final Four and who is going to win the national championship in the men's March Madness tournament. So without any further ado, why don't we go ahead and get in and take a look at what does the bracket look like? All right, as you guys can see, I've kind of got started on a couple of them, a couple of picks that I went ahead and uh, decided to take a look at. I wanted to get the Duke Blue Devils, wanted to go ahead and select them because I felt like they were going to go ahead and beat Siena. And then we've got TCU. I've got them playing Duke in the very next round. But TCU will beat Ohio State. Let's go ahead and continue on in the East bracket here, and let's see who else we want to go with. Um, I want to go ahead and attempt to move this over a little bit since I am not seeing everything that I need to see. All right, we got St. John's. That's who I'm picking in the next one. Again, let me know what your comments are. Would love to hear from you on that. St. John's, they're playing an outstanding basketball right now, and I think they're going to be a tough out for at least the first few rounds. My next pick, for those of you that are not Jayhawk fans, I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks. And again, we're doing the East bracket right now, and then we're going to move on down to Louisville, and then we're going to let me get over here on this so I can see a little bit better. South Florida, the South Florida Bulls. I'm picking an upset here. I'm going to go with the South Florida Bulls. Want to know what your thoughts are, but I think that they're going to be a tough opponent for Louisville. All right, and let's see here. Next, I want to move on down to Michigan State and North Dakota Bisons. I was real tempted to go with North Dakota. Just again, I like to see the underdogs win, but we're going to go ahead and go with Michigan right here, Michigan State. All right, and then we're going to move on to UCLA and the UCF Knights. Now I'm going to go with the UCF Knights. I mean, they are a tough team, and they played in a tough conference in the Big 12. So I'm going to pick an upset there. And then we've got the Yukon Huskies against the Furman Paladins, and I'm definitely going to go with Yukon on this pick. Let's go ahead and switch over to, while we're up here on this side, let's go ahead and switch on over to the West bracket. And again, I want to hear from you what your comments are and who you think would be somebody that you could see going all the way to the Final Four or winning the national championship. Love to hear from you on that. All right, in this bracket, let's go ahead and look at. Um, I've got my notes here, real quick, and let me get to that. All right, we got the Arizona Wildcats and the Long Island University Sharks. Definitely going to go with Arizona here. Don't know that too many people would pick an upset. The 16 going against Arizona. Arizona's played great basketball. Villanova Wildcats versus the Utah State Aggies. Um, I'm tempted to go with Utah State, but I am going to go with Villanova, just because I mean, that's been a strong team for a very long time, and I just would have a hard time going against them. I don't know much about the Utah State Aggies. Let's see, moving on down to the number 5 and number 12 seed. Let's take a look at the Wisconsin Badgers versus the High Point Panthers. This is a 5 and a 12, and I'm going to have to stick with Wisconsin here, just because I think that would be a um, very tough win for the High Point Panthers. Wisconsin, again, they play in the Big Ten. Big Ten is very competitive. Just like all of these different leagues are competitive, we can see that, the SEC, they've got a lot of teams in. They had 10 teams in, and then there were several, like the Big Ten, the Big 12. They had, I think, 8 each, and so just very highly competitive. So let's go on down to the Arkansas Razorbacks. John Calipari. I mean, all that guy does is win. He won at Kentucky. He won at Memphis. He's winning right now at Arkansas. They're the number 4 seed against the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. I'm going to have to go with Arkansas. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Calipari, but they just win. So we'll go with that. Moving on down to the 6 and 11. The 6 and 11 seed are going to be, again, another Big 12 team, the BYU Cougars. AJ Dybantsa, I mean, that freshman, he's going to go high in the NBA draft, and they're going against the winner of the Texas Longhorns and North Carolina State Wolfpack. I am just going to, regardless of whoever wins between Texas and North Carolina State, I'm going to go ahead and pick BYU for that one. All right, then we're going to move on down to the Gonzaga Bulldogs versus Kennesaw State Owls. I'm definitely jumping on Gonzaga there at the number 3 seed. And then we've got the University of Miami against our very own Missouri Tigers. Now, I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts about the Missouri Tigers getting into the tournament? Kind of had some rough games there toward the end, and they're a team that can play really well, and then they're a team that can struggle. I'm going to go ahead and pick Missouri in the upset over Miami, just because, one, I think they have great potential, and two, they're right up the road. We're Missourians. Let's go Mizzou. All right, the next pick, we're going to move on down to the number 2 versus 15. Now, so far, we have not had any upset picks on the 15 to the number 2 or the 16 to the number 1, and I'm definitely not going to go for an upset here. I'm going to go ahead and stay with the Purdue Boilermakers, and they're going to win, I think, easily over the Queen's University Royals. So we've got both sides of the first round filled out in the East and the West bracket. Now we're going to do the South and the Midwest. Let's go ahead and do the Midwest first, and then we'll get over to the South. The Midwest, we've got the Michigan State Wolverines, and they're playing really good basketball, and they're going to be a tough out for anyone. Again, they're one of the number 1 seeds, so we're just going to take them, I think, very easily over either Howard or the UMBC Retrievers. All right, moving on, let's go to the Georgia Bulldogs against the St. Louis Billikens. St. Louis is an interesting team. They were playing pretty good, and then they just got beat in the tournament just recently. They had an opportunity to win, lost right at the very end of the game. Georgia, again, tough conference with the SEC. I'm going to go ahead and go with Georgia. Texas Tech Raiders against the Akron Zips. I've heard of Akron, but I did not know that their mascot name is the Zips. Reminds me of my father-in-law back in the day when he played basketball. The mascot for their team was the Gnats. Yes, you heard me. GNATS. They must have been pesky, but that's an interesting name, the Akron Zips. I'm going for Texas Tech. They've played good basketball this year. Now, they lost one of their top scorers, so that might be a factor in the game. But I'm thinking Texas Tech is going to go ahead and win here. All right, number 4, Alabama versus Hofstra, and I'm just gonna stick with the SEC here. Alabama for a good win there against Hofstra. Tennessee will play against Miami, Ohio Redhawks. Now Miami, they were undefeated until they got to the final of their conference tournament. They lost in the final. They've only lost one time all year. They've got the play-in game against SMU Mustangs. I think I'm going to go with Tennessee over either one of those. Excuse me. The University of Virginia versus the Wright State Raiders. Virginia Cavaliers, they've got a rich tradition. They're starting to play kind of like I remember back in the early, mid 80s, somewhere around there. Ralph Sampson, he was around the time of Michael Jordan. And I, I've seen kind of a resurgence in the Cavaliers. I think they're coming around. Got a good coach there. I'm going to go ahead and pick them over the Wright State Raiders. No upset there. All right, then we move on to Kentucky and Santa Clara Broncos. This is number 10 versus number 7 seed. I really want to go with an upset here. And let's see. I don't know. Let's go with an upset. Let's go with Santa Clara. I'm probably going to be way off on that, but you got to have some somewhere. Iowa State Cyclones. I'm going to stick with Iowa State. They're just a tough NCAA tournament, or in the Big 12 tournament. Did an outstanding job. Just a regular season. Again, outstanding job and everything that they did there. Okay, let's go ahead and move on over here to the South bracket. And let me get reset on that one. Again, whatever you guys, who are you picking for the Final Four? Who are you picking for the national champion in the men's bracket? And just give me that in the comments. I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are there. Let's see. This South bracket, this one's going to be a tough one too. And Florida snuck in as a number 1 seed right at the end. UConn got pulled out, and Florida came in, and they're the national champions from last year. So my thought is they're going to carry on with this first round win for sure. So we're going to go with the Florida Gators, and they would be playing against either the Prairie View A&M or Lehigh Mountain Hawks. All right, next we've got Clemson versus the Iowa Hawkeyes. I'm going to pick the Iowa Hawkeyes here. I think they're going to have an upset win. And then the next one is the Vanderbilt Commodores versus McNeese Cowboys. And again, Vanderbilt has been playing really well. They got all the way to the SEC championship in the tournament. They lost there, but they're playing good. So I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. Next, we've got Nebraska, another Big Ten team, playing against the Troy Trojans. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Nebraska. North Carolina versus the VCU Rams. The Tar Heels lost their number 1 player, their freshman phenom. He got injured, so I don't know how well they're going to do in the tournament, but I'm going to go ahead and pick VCU for the upset here. Illinois, the Fighting Illini against the Pennsylvania Quakers. Man, this is going to be a tough one. The Quakers have a player, TJ Power. He had 44 points against Yale in a recent game, and it's going to be a tough game. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Illinois to beat Penn in this one. All right, and then we're moving on. We've got Texas A&M, number 10, versus the St. Mary's Gales, number 7. Texas A&M is again another tough SEC team. Um, they could definitely they can definitely get up and down the floor. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with Texas A&M for the upset over St. Mary's here. And then the Houston Cougars, who were the runner-up last year in the national championship, I'm going to take them over the Idaho Vandals. All right, so we've got the first round done. What are you guys' thoughts? What do you see something different there that you would change? Like no way, Kirk. There's no way that's going to happen. Well, we'll get into that a little bit more, but I'm going to go ahead and move this on up to the upper part of the bracket here again, and we're going to check out what happens in the next round, starting again with the East. And let's go ahead and pull up and see who will win between Duke and TCU. I'm gonna go with Duke. I think again they're going to be a hard one to. I think they're going to be a hard one to get out in one of those first two rounds. Now, some of you are not going to like this. I mean, I have grown up and have been a Jayhawks fan from very early on. I'm from Kansas. I love them first in basketball. Um, I love Mizzou first in football, and Mizzou second in basketball if they were to play each other. Just because I just grew up and have been to several other games, and I do like Coach Bill Self. Um, it'd be interesting if the two of them were to play on down the road. I would love to see that. That would be amazing. But I'm going to go ahead and go with KU for this win, even though it's very possible they get upset. All right, moving on down. Let's go and look at Michigan State and South Florida. This is a tough one. Again, I think South Florida is really good. Could continue on a little bit, but Tom Izzo, he's a tried and true tournament coach, and let's go ahead and go with Michigan State. And then UCF against UConn. I'm gonna go with UConn over UCF. I think UConn's just the stronger of the two teams. All right, let's go on over to the West bracket. If you guys want to switch to that side again, let me get lined up with that. Um, all right, second round of the West bracket. Okay, we're going to look at between Arizona and Arkansas. No, Arizona and Vanderbilt. And I'm going to go, of course, with Arizona here. Again, what are your thoughts? What are some of these teams that you're rooting for to get to the Final Four and possibly win the national championship? Okay, the Wisconsin Badgers at number 5 versus Arkansas Razorbacks. I'm going to have to go with the Arkansas Razorbacks for that one. Again, not a huge fan of Calipari, but I think they win that one. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and go with BYU. Again, they just played in a tough conference, and I think that they'll be able to knock off Gonzaga. However, Gonzaga's a good team, so I may regret that one. This is a tough one. My heart says Mizzou. My head is saying Purdue. And just for the sake of trying to pick a winning bracket, I'm going to have to go with Purdue. I think that they're just going to be too tough to handle for Mizzou in this one. All right, let's go ahead and move on over to the Midwest bracket. And as we get into the Midwest bracket, let's see here. Okay, We've got Michigan against Georgia. I think Michigan handles Georgia pretty handily here, so we're gonna go with Michigan. Texas Tech versus Alabama. I am gonna go the Big 12, Texas Tech in this game. Tennessee versus Virginia. I'm gonna pick Virginia to win here, and then we're going to look at. Um, let's see here. Iowa State. Uh, let's see. Iowa State versus South. I'm going to go Iowa State. Again, just because they've got a talented team. All right, now we're going to move back over here, and we're going to take. All right, Whitney. I see your comment. Yes, I did. I just don't know if they're going to be able to. Don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off in the next round. Purdue is they were a #1 team this year, and I think it's going to be hard for them to win that one. My heart says Mizzou, but my head is saying Purdue in that one. All right, let's move on over to the South bracket and see what we can come up with here. A lot of really good teams. All right, we did the first round. Now let's move on into the second round here. We've got the Florida Gators facing off against Iowa. I think, again, we're going to have to look at Florida winning that game. I think that there'll just be too much for Iowa. Vanderbilt and Nebraska. This is going to be a tough one, a 4 versus a 5. I think Vanderbilt SEC is going to win, beat the Big Ten. I don't know. I don't know what. It's tough to say about Nebraska. I mean, they've got the higher seed, but I think Vanderbilt's going to be able to handle them. The next bracket or the next group will be Nebraska. I'm sorry, Illinois versus VCU. I am going to. There's got to be a team that's really good at being an upset-minded team somewhere. Then I don't think this is it. I think Illinois wins here. And then the last one on this side, I've got to stay Houston. Houston is just a tough team, so we'll stick with them. All right, so we've done 2 rounds. What are your thoughts, Whitney? You thinking we're getting it right, or we need to redo the entire thing? All right. Well, here's where I'm gonna have to head back on up here to the west or the east, and we've got Duke versus Kansas, 2 blue bloods. This pains me. This pains me. I don't know that Kansas would be able to beat Duke here again. My heart says Kansas, but my head is going to say Duke. And I would have never done this before. They're just Kansas is just so up and down. They've got the talent, but not deep enough. Duke, I think, wins this one. I know you're shocked. I know you're shocked, Whitney. I know. I'm shocked too. The next one, UConn versus Michigan State. I'm gonna go with UConn here. I think between those 2 teams, it'll be a pretty good battle. And then let's head on over here to Arizona. And well, let's see. Wait a minute. Let me move on down here a little bit. Make sure I got everything. Yeah, let's move on over to the West region, and we're going to go ahead and look at. I think very easily Arizona beats Arkansas. I think that's where Calipari's reign comes to an end in the tournament. And then we'll move on down here to BYU Purdue. This is where I think BYU is done. I think Purdue wins this game, and I think probably pretty handily on that one. And moving on down, let's get into the Midwest bracket. Michigan and Texas Tech. I'm going to go with the 1 seed here. I think Michigan wins that game pretty easily. And then Virginia and Tennessee. We had that in the other round. I'm sorry. Iowa State and Virginia. I'm going to go with Virginia beating Iowa State here. And then moving over on to the South region and looking at who you think would win between Florida and Vanderbilt. Two SEC teams. I'm going to go with Florida. And then Illinois versus Houston. I'm definitely going Houston for this one. All right. Boy, there we go. We are getting down to the finals. We are at the Elite Eight. We're at the Elite Eight, and I want to know what you guys think. Again, who's going to get to the Final Four? All right, let's see. Whitney said you did one already, but hard to tell upsets. I usually do what my heart wants, what might be a good bracket, and then crazy upsets, LOL. Yep, absolutely. I usually do with my heart wants with KU going all the way to the national championship. It has worked many times, but I just don't see that happening this year. I had to use my head a little bit more. All right. And Whitney, I really typically I don't even fill out a bracket. I'm just doing this for fun tonight, just to get see what everybody thinks. But I just thought it would be kind of fun to do it live, and then that everybody would look at it and say, "What were you thinking?" I'm not putting that into any pools or anything like that. I just don't do that. This is just for fun tonight. So, all right, Duke and UConn. I am going to stay with Duke here. And they're going to move on to the Final Four. And over in the other side, in the Midwest, we're going to look, while we got them up here at the top, between Arizona and Purdue. I'm going to go with Arizona beating the 2 seed in Purdue. And they are going to be heading on to the Final Four, Duke and Arizona. Now, let's move on down to the South and the Midwest brackets and see who we got moving on there. Well, we've got Michigan versus Virginia in the Midwest. And then we've got Florida and Houston in the South. This is a matchup. Florida and Houston, that's a matchup from the national championship last year. I'm going to go with Houston getting a little bit of revenge and winning that game. And then, excuse me, over on the other side in the Midwest, I'm going to stay with the 1 seed beating Virginia here. All right, now this. All right, Whitney says not this year. KU slipping. Yeah, you're right. But hey, again, I enjoy the process, and I enjoy Coach Self. I really enjoyed him, and I like seeing what he does. And I know I loved Norm Stewart when he was around. He was amazing, and I always loved watching those KU and MU challenges. They were great games. So. All right, now we're going to move to the Final Four. There we've got it. We've got a number 1 seed in Duke versus number 2 seed Houston. And over on the other side of the bracket, we have 2 1 seeds against each other. We've got Arizona and Michigan. Typically, we know it won't go this way. I am going to pick Arizona over Michigan to get into the national championship game. And they're going to play against fellow Big 12 team Houston. They get it done there, and I'm going to go ahead and make the call that Houston ends up beating Arizona for the national championship. There you go. That's my bracket. I know that it's probably not anything too exciting for some people. Not necessarily what I really want, not necessarily what I think's really going to happen, but just kind of going through everything. I think it's fun. So you have a bracket, Whitney, that you said you have Arizona. So hey, we got them both in the championship game, so that was good. I think it's going to be a good game. They've played each other this year, and Arizona just beat Houston, and I think Houston's going to get a revenge game. So I always like seeing the underdogs win anyway. So unless it's KU at number one, then we'll go with that. All right. Well, guys, hey, I just wanted to see what some of your comments and your thoughts were tonight on uh, March Madness, and giving you some of my different thoughts as far as who might make it all the way to the Final Four. Again, the Final Four that I had was getting Florida and Houston, and then Michigan and Arizona in the Final Four, with Arizona and Houston getting to the championship game with Houston winning. Let me hear what your thoughts are. Love to hear from you on that. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go tonight. Just wanted to take a quick moment and have a little bit of fun trying to pick those things out. Before I go, I want to just give a quick acknowledgement to our sponsors.
Job searching doesn't have to feel overwhelming. Imagine working with people who actually know your name, your skills, and what you're looking for, not just your resume file. At CNS Employment Solutions, we help connect job seekers with employers who are ready to hire, right here in Central Missouri. It's guidance, it's clarity, it's choices. And that's real conversations instead of radio silence. If you're looking for a more personal and streamlined path to your next job opportunity, CNS is here to help.
All right, CNS Employment Solutions and Big Whiskeys are the sponsors of One Nation of Sports Locker Magazine Extra. We thank them for all that they do. And recognizing our coach of the issue, Joseph Collier, we just want to give a shout out to all of our Mid Missouri coaches. And again, we see a lot of outstanding coaches on the college level, but we got a lot of outstanding coaches right here in Mid Missouri, and we're just thankful to be able to recognize them. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me tonight on the program. Next week, I'm going to have a special night on, I think, Saturday night instead of Monday. And we're going to have a group of Christian rappers are going to be on the program. And hopefully, we'll get them to be able to do something while we're on the program. They are going to be performing a week from next Saturday on the 28th. Excuse me, right here in Jefferson City. I think there are 8 Christian rappers that will be coming in. Some are coming away from coming from 15 hours away, and they're very talented. You guys will not want to miss that. I'll promote that a little bit this week, but just put that on your calendar. I think it's from 5 to 9 on Saturday, March 28th. Make sure that you set your time for that. It's going to be a great time, and it's a benefit concert. So it'll be outstanding. It's a Redemption Revival, and thank you guys for joining us. And join me next Saturday as I have that interview with them. Excuse me. All right. Thanks for joining me tonight. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.